Hi, I'm Miriam Sagan, and I'm going to be reading from my new book. Big thanks to Alien Buddha Press for publishing it. The book is called Mother of Assassins, and it's a memoir of the imagination, which is to say, it's an essentially speculative memoir. If you want to know what that is, I'm about to give you some examples. The Blue City. And this is narrated by one of the two protagonists, an imaginary protagonist or a fictional character named Layla. Ever since I was a child, I've seen this city between sleep and waking. This city is mine. It is hypnagogic, rising up brick by clay brick as I close my eyes. Now at the end of my life, I want to describe it in the light of day. But although I was raised there, I did not stay. Still at the end, I did attempt to return. Isn't that the fate of all of us born in a great metropolis? We arrive with the sense that this city is realer than other places. If the northern edge of the city has a great park, then we will look for that greenery and foliage wherever else we go, and be disappointed that our city is not the map that the rest of the world adheres to. But a person must leave in order to come back. I suppose I should start at the beginning, if I can determine where that may be, and if I can find it. There are a series of beginnings as twisty as the labyrinthian streets of the city itself. Some lead to dead ends, some circle back to where they started, and some lead deeper into a mysterious center where alleys and esplanades, ditches and causeways all converge, as do the desires of hundreds of thousands of residents that appear to merge into a pulsating whole. Some crave wealth, some want pastry, others seek revenge, while a few yearn for peace. Like a hive of bees, the denizens affect each other, creating a whole that is so vast it can't even be seen and understood by just one person. That's the opening, and now we're going to see a kind of contradictory reality where somebody named Miriam, just like me, is the narrator and kind of at war with the characters. I invented the Blue City when I was a child. Falling asleep, I'd see it as if from the air and descend to explore. It existed because of me, my imagination. The more I visited, the more I understood its streets and buildings, its needs and concerns, its lacks and desires. I'm not sure when I gave up the Blue City, maybe when I was 12 or 13 and started falling asleep to fantasies about sex and love. In any case, I neglected the Blue City for over 50 years until I was diagnosed with cancer as an old woman. Now, all I have to do is blink to see its domes and spires rise in an azure mist, bells ring, doves fly. But the relationship is less peaceful than it was. It turns out that Layla and even others can sometimes see and hear me. I disrupt their sense of security, of autonomy. To my shock, the Blue City believes it exists without me, that it is real, that I may have discovered it, but I did not create or possess it. Well, we will see. And this next section is from the so-called real world. I'm interested in the idea, it kind of comes from land art, of Site A and Site B, which could also be considered to be inspiration and production. But in this case, there are two conflicting realities. And this is about oncology. The pathology report came in. The surgeon refused to get back to me and we never spoke again. I called and called the office and begged the front desk to have her contact me, but she did not. I could, however, read the report in my medical portal, and it did not seem very alarming. The oncologist said, "I am revising your life expectancy upwards." Now I knew how my characters felt, with someone else in charge of life and death. However, I loved my characters. I cared about them. I once had a fight with an editor who wanted me to put my teenage protagonist in more danger. If she was hitchhiking, she should get raped, or at least hurt. I absolutely refused. I did what I could for all my characters. I got them jobs and sweethearts. I made sure they ate and exercised. However, they did not seem to be grateful. Nor was I grateful to the oncologist, who spoke as if she were God. In fact, that word revise seemed awfully literary. Why not revise me so I did not have a rare aggressive cancer with a poor prognosis? Why not, indeed? The oncologist had no idea who I was. She had never asked me if I worked, how long I'd been in Santa Fe, if I had weekend plans. She had never asked me what the weather was doing outside. It was strange. Sometimes the oncologist regarded me as if she was unsure that I understood what she was saying. Maybe my English was poor. Maybe I was not literate. I had turned down her chemotherapy, which made me a fool. I realized she was not my God or my author. For if she was, she would know all about me. I had two secrets from the oncologist. One, I did not fear death or regard it as an enemy the way she did. And two, I went to Harvard and therefore was hugely stuck up. I longed to tell her the second, but decided to take this secret from her to the grave. I am not in denial. I know that soon enough I'll die and the Blue City with me. At least that is what I believe. So let us continue. It took me a while when I was writing this to realize that Harvard then shows up in the other world, in Site B. It's a school for assassins. And since Harvard lawyers are sometimes called assassins in Armani suits, I thought that was pretty self-amusing. I enjoyed it. So now we're back to Layla, who's a character but a true denizen of the Blue City. When I turned 13, my mother asked me if I wanted to go to school. I protested that I was already in school, and of course I attended one for girls in the neighborhood. This is different, my mother said. Different how? Well, you sleep there. It's a kind of boarding school. In the city? Will I see you? Of course, it's nearby, just in the Central District. You can come home to visit whenever you like. Why this school? Well, I went there. I loved the food. I made many friends. The food is delicious, right here at home. Well, there were boys. Boys? Together with girls? That's allowed? My mother nodded. I think you'll like it. But why go somewhere else? What would I learn there? To defend yourself, my mother said. To defend those you love and to defend those who need help. People you might not even know. And how would I do that? I asked. By learning to kill, she said. So Layla goes to the school, the mother house, the school for assassins, and a great part of the middle of the book is about the many different karmic twists and turns that this takes, what it means to kill somebody, what it means to suddenly become an object of assassination yourself. And, meanwhile, the author, Miriam, is popping in and out inappropriately and trying to tell different stories and annoying everybody. So you'll have to get this book if you want the middle. I'll read two little sections from the end to conclude. And basically what happens is, much to my surprise, the Blue City is under siege, probably from nomads, and then there's a terrible earthquake, and it is destroyed. It's destroyed while some character named Layla and I are still alive. There's 4 Laylas, 4 different generations. Each woman in that family is named Layla. Layla, of course, is, Arabic romantic heroine, and the name means born in darkness. So here's a little vignette from Layla about the past, but they're out kind of, in an oasis outside in the desert. The city's gone. We're not in complete isolation out here. A 10-minute walk leads to a bend in the road that is certainly no town, but it's a cluster of tiny stores and stands. You can get a pot of hot tea, no better than you'd make at home, but at least it is out in company. There's a bit of gossip, some chat about farming, mention of who has had a baby. A long time ago, there was a cabaret out here in the country. Strange though, since it would have been hours from the Blue City. Maybe the road had more traffic then, or maybe it was because the dancer was banned. She'd been the most famous dancer in her day, not tall but lush, and she could contort into any shape and hang by her teeth from a rope and a hook in the ceiling. The story goes that she danced on a stage in the Blue City in a hole in the wall called the End of the World Cafe. Strange things happened when she danced. Tables skidded across the floor or fell over. Patrons sneezed 100 times in a row and threw themselves on strangers. A small earthquake cracked the sidewalk outside, and then hordes of marauders laid siege to the city's wall. And then the city fell. No one knew how the two were connected. Did she hate the Blue City for some reason, or had a spirit of destruction possessed her? Was she a prophetess or a hoochie coochie girl? No one knew, and by now, no one cared. And then at the absolute end, we have a visitor who comes by the oasis where the family is living. And I just want to share that this is taken from the end of the Sumerian epic, Gilgamesh. That after Gilgamesh's many adventures, like Layla and Miriam's many adventures, a descent into the underworld, an encounter with the goddess of love, the loss of a friend, a confrontation with death, Gilgamesh basically comes to a nice grape arbor, a vineyard at the end of the world, and an old woman gives him a glass of wine, as if this solves everything, but perhaps it does. My granddaughter and her husband are out working in the fields. Ever since they discovered the artesian well that was feeding a small oasis, they've been irrigating and cultivating vegetables, fruit trees, and small sweet grapes. These grapes make a dark wine, not too fruity, not too tart. Maybe a traveler will wander past our land and houses and, taken with the lush sight, sit down in the shade. We'll greet them with a round loaf of bread, white cheese from our goats, and a glass of wine. The pilgrim will regale us with tales of adventures, kings and cities, a descent into the underworld, the appearance of the goddess of love. They'll ask what we know of life, and we'll shake our heads and yell at the girls to not pull each other's hair. The stranger leaves as dusk falls. The little girls sit hand in hand. They have beautiful names. One means bitter water, and one means born in darkness. Miriam and Layla. Thank you.